Well, look, I suppose to kick things off for everyone listening, what we're going to do today is Alexej and I have worked very, very closely together on his campaign recently. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I am the Campaign Development Associate here at Seedrs. So I specialise in all the CBD raises. And I've actually done all of the CBD raises for Seedrs in 2021. As I said, worked very closely with Alexej. And so just wanted to, I suppose, hand over to Alexej to introduce himself and just go through a bit about his experience, and then I'll fire some questions over to him.
Cool, awesome, and yeah, thank you for inviting me to talk here and share my experience. So for those who don't know about Alphagreen, we launched in October 2019 with the aim to be a global marketplace, initially without taking any inventory, so via dropshipping, via API keys, with lots of different global brands. We now have 190 brands and 3,000 plus products. We are present in more than 7 countries and local languages as well. And we evolved also into managed services, which means we provide CBD brands with SEO, influencer marketing, PPC, as well as a data product we launched. And then finally, the aim is also to be in Germany, present in the medical cannabis market in the future. And I guess, yeah, my background, I spent most of my time, almost 10 years in finance, initially investment banking, and then 6 years on the buy side, including also almost 3 years running venture capital for Delin Capital. And the VC fund there is called Delin Ventures. And so obviously you can kind of compare the crowdfunding experience with the VC experience as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Alexej. I suppose what would be great would be to understand your thoughts. And I know obviously Alphagreen is one of the, if not the biggest player in the CBD market at the moment. It would be great to hear how you feel sort of the CBD market is evolving. And I know it's gone through some changes, especially over the last year and a half. So, but yeah, great to see how you feel it's evolving and where it's come from really in the past 3-4 years.
Yeah, so the CBD market is a very dynamic market. It's constantly evolving. So I guess maybe if one looks at kind of 4 or 5 years ago, there were probably only 5 brands. Some of these brands were very much in the full spectrum area, which means you had a lot of other cannabinoids, including THC in there. They were run very much bootstrapped and were really for people who were really trying to Google a lot and find a natural cure against, let's say, pain or sleep problems. When the legalization happened in Canada, end of 2018 for cannabis, including recreational cannabis, a lot of money started flowing also into the UK market and the European market. And what it meant was that a lot of brands started popping up. And we now have in the UK probably more than 1,000 brands. What's also interesting compared to other markets is that the market there is no brand, so to say. I mean, probably the largest brand in the UK is Love Hemp with probably 2% market share, followed by maybe Provocon and Doka and Sipdol with probably a very similar market share, and then just kind of a massive long tail. And that's where basically marketplaces started coming in to start aggregating that fragmentation as well. What you also have is that the regulator started kind of creating a lot of noise and asking people to start being more compliant. The process is still ongoing. So while there were rumors that the product has to be isolate rather than full spectrum, it's still actually both, let's say, both fine as long as you kind of get your novel food submission, you on the list, and ultimately we might wait another 18 to 24 months until somebody even gets validated. So it's still fairly a gray area, but I guess the good thing is there hasn't been really much enforcement on the CBD oil or kind of edibles market. Of course, the CBD flower market is very different. That is illegal, and there has been a lot of enforcement there. But what's interesting is that the market is constantly evolving and changing. And if you look at Europe, it's a very similar story, with every different country having a very different attitude towards products, despite all being in the EU.
And on that, Alphagreen, you've got hundreds, thousands of brands on the site, which is incredible to have seen the growth that you've ascertained. I mean, not just since inception, but even over the last year, right? So, I mean, from your point of view, how difficult has it been, I suppose, to keep in line with all of these regulations, and how do Alphagreen go about that?
Yeah, so I think we have two layers of compliance. First of all, we usually put in rules into the checkout, which doesn't allow people from countries where it's illegal to import CBD to actually buy the product. So for example, Canada, if you're in Canada and you go to checkout, you won't be able to pay. And then the second layer of compliance is the fact that in 98% of cases, it's the brand delivering the product to the customer. And so it's kind of the brand. And if we, let's say, make a mistake and somebody manages to, let's say, order CBD from Saudi Arabia, the brand can still decide whether to deliver or not. So in that sense, we are really more as an agent, as a tech platform. We just launched our gummies and CBD oil as well, and we will be looking to launch a brand as well. And then we can kind of like also look into more of that, let's say, compliance. But I think there is basically guidance and one can really follow it. But yeah, it's just, you can't just listen to everybody basically, because there's so many different opinions.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that fascinates me about the Alphagreen model is obviously you've almost, I don't want to say you've conquered the CBD space just yet, but you are, as I've aforementioned, one of the biggest players in the market at the moment. And I think what's really interesting will be to me and to everyone listening is your, I suppose, journey into the medicinal space and what that actually looks like as well.
Yeah, so the journey was initially, again, coming from the finance sector, was really about seeing the opportunity with this massive growth industry, which is probably going to be one of the highest growing industries in the next 5 years. So kind of projected annual growth rate around 22%. And initially it was, the idea was to find an interesting company in Canada or California or Colorado, and then bring it to investors in Europe who I knew really well, and then basically invest and then repeat that with other targets. So basically a cannabis focused fund. When I traveled the US and Canada, I realized that as I mentioned, even there are not that many dominant brands. I mean, you have Charlotte's Web, they might have 4% of the market. So again, still kind of blue sky. And every brand there also wanted to enter the European and the UK market. And then I basically was lucky. I had the initial capital, and I had a really good CTO who could join me as a co-founder. And so we decided to launch Alphagreen as a platform, as a distribution play, rather than create a cannabis fund.
Amazing. And I suppose one of the big questions is the growth projections that you're looking at in the CBD space. What's the landscape looking like over the next 5-6 years, do you think?
Yeah, again, there are a lot of data points in the market. We did a study with 5,000 participants last April, which was also published by Forbes, which basically said 11% of the UK population tried CBD, and you can kind of extrapolate that the market is around 450 million. Now, having said that, the market is probably much smaller than that. So I would say it's around 150 million if you kind of look at, the aggregated sales volume of all the brands online, which is probably 70-80%, and then offline around 20%. The growth rate of 22% is coming mostly from more people really finding out about that ingredient and that product, and then B, of course, with regulation in a positive way evolving, which, by the way, novel foods is actually a positive for the industry. More and more brands and more institutional, let's say, players such as FMCG players are also then entering the market, pumping more marketing money, educating the wider audience, and therefore the market just growing as well. And then, of course, you have separately also the medical cannabis market. And then, yeah, maybe in 4 or 5 years' time, you might see legalization even in the UK.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating point about the potential legalization in the UK. I think for a lot of people, they'll be wondering about the novel foods application and everything around that. Can you just give us a little bit of, or just elucidate a little bit on why you think that's a positive in the marketplace?
It's a positive because ultimately the Food and Standards Authority wants the consumer safety. What it means is that they want brands to be able to document where they get the extract from. Now, in 70% of the brands, they are basically buying from 10 different suppliers. And so it's really the homework of the suppliers to get their dossier submitted, showing whether they get the biomass from, how do they do the extraction, to make sure it is actually safe for the customer. And then for the other 30% of brands who want to be vertically integrated, or maybe who are US brands and basically have some IP in their genetic, again, they have to invest the money into making sure the regulator knows it's safe for the customer. Otherwise, you can just do the oil yourself at home and then sell it, right? And then if something happens, the customer will suffer. And so I think the novel food, we saw it in chia seeds, we saw it in many other areas where, let's say, traditional ingredients have been treated in a novel way, i.e., CO2 extraction, for example, and therefore the regulator also saying, okay, you guys have to be compliant. Having said that, again, I don't see more than 60 brands being on the list by year end even, and I probably see that the list from the FSA will continue to expand over the next 3 years even. So there is not gonna, it's just more like stopping new brands from coming in.
Yeah. And do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing that there's now this, I suppose, for the new brands coming in, that there's this maybe a bit of a barrier to entry for them?
Well, look, I mean, first of all, every new brand who's coming in, who is after February 2020, can go to court against the FSA, and very likely the FSA will not take any action. And again, happy to bet my money here, but I mean, it's from talking to a FSA board members, legal lawyers. It's because of course we are a marketplace, right? We need to know all the regulation, even though we until recently didn't even have a product. We still needed to make sure the brands on our marketplace are not going to be put to jail, or the founders, right, the next day, right? So in that sense, the regulation, is a mental hurdle, I would say, and is also making harder to fundraise for sure, because you can't just say to an investor, look, I want your money, but it's against the law what we're doing, but I don't think they will enforce it or go to court, right? That's not going to work, right? So I think in that sense, it is making life harder for everybody, including for the brands who are already on the market. Because as I mentioned, there are only 3 brands so far on the list out of 1,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. But you obviously think that will expand throughout the year.
That's what they said. I mean, they just announced it will be expanding until June, and then in June they will expand into December, and so on. They want to be collaborative, right? I mean, they're showing the route to compliance, and ultimately everybody should be compliant at some point. It's just, I think there was a lot of lack of guidance and communication, which made it very hard for brands to be compliant.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and it's something that I have heard from a lot of founders of CBD businesses, that potentially the messaging around it wasn't as clear as it could be, which, yeah, I suppose has maybe caused a few issues. But look, Alexej, I just wanted to thank you very much for running through that with me. So what I'm actually going to do now for everybody, as I mentioned, Alexej and I had a very successful campaign. I hope you think that, Alexej. So nodding your head there. So I just wanted to run through for everyone's benefit, and I'm gonna share my screen. Alexej, I'll ask you to jump in at points as well. Sure. But just wanted to share my screen for everybody to go through sort of equity crowdfunding 101 for CBD businesses. So let me just share that. Can you see that, Alexej?
Yep, I can see that. Yep.
Perfect. So if my internet speeds up, here we go. So equity crowdfunding 101 for CBD. So first and foremost, Seedrs, what are we? What are we building? So we are a complete marketplace for private equity. So last year here at Seedrs, we had 300 funding rounds in 2020, which is more than any other platform in the UK. We have now raised over 1 billion for startups. We have a 100% success rate for $1 million+ rounds, which Alexej will be able to attest. I think we ended up raising, was it 2.4 million through the Seedrs platform? Yeah. And that's 80. Our overall statistics for 2020 were 82% across all deals, which is 20% higher than any other platform. Now, I think the interesting thing, and again, Alexej, you can jump in on this, is we've got crowdfunding. We like to think almost down to a T, right? So we've been doing this since our inception in 2012. We've had over 1,235 funding rounds to date, as I said, with a portfolio of £1 billion. But what really is separating us at the present moment from, I would say, our competitors is that what we're looking to, I suppose, innovate the areas in. So the biggest thing that we've got at the moment is a fully liquid secondaries market. And essentially what the secondaries market is it de-risks every campaign. So essentially, if you've got investors who are coming in and looking to put 20, 30K into a campaign, with other platforms, they might think a little bit differently about putting that in, as they might not see returns on that for 7 or 8 years. However, with Seedrs, what you can do is, if they're for the people who are coming through the Seedrs shareholder nominee, they can actually sell their shares early on the platform. So they can actually sell those to other investors through the secondary market. And we can also do what's known as full secondaries campaigns. That's where founders can realize their own equity within the business. And rather like, can realize any of their, sorry, Alexej, but is my internet okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone listening. My internet cut out there. Apologies. The joys of working from home. So founders can actually realize their own equity within a business, and they can list their shares on our secondary market. Now, I must say, a lot of the hard work that has gone in from our investor team, from our compliance team, CBD businesses weren't actually allowed to use our secondary market previously, but because of the hard work that has been done by our team, they can now list their shares privately on our secondary market. And Alexej, I don't know, I think Alphagreen are now suitable to do that, right?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, we should be, but I guess, yeah, we need to officially get the legal sorted first. But yeah.
Get the legal sorted first. And my graphics design team will probably kill me for this slide, as it's not, it's just a list of companies that are just put onto a screen. But as you can see here, look, crowdfunding is not just for like any other business. It's for big businesses coming through. So as you can see, we've got companies like Revolut, Dead Happy, All Plants, this. So all of these businesses are using crowdfunding to actually realize the benefits of marketing and putting themselves out to the crowd. So why equity crowdfunding for CBD? Well, we've had a good bit of success so far, as we've touched upon, but especially for CBD. So we've raised over 3.5 million invested into campaigns so far, 100% success rate on every single CBD campaign, with 5 deals funded through the Seedrs platform. Hopefully in the next, I would say 2-3 months, we'll be looking at have 8-9 fully funded campaigns. As you can see on the side here, Alphagreen needs a little bit of an update, as Alexej mentioned to me before, but he's actually raised 2.4 million, and I think that was from 700 plus investors. As you can see, we've got Voyager CBD, who've done 972,000 from 300 investors, and then Canabrew and Chloris respectively raising just over 200,000, pushing through their targets at the moment. Chloris is actually still live for anyone who might want to take a look at those. So why businesses use crowdfunding? So yes, money, obviously the biggest thing, but also ultimately getting validation as well from the crowd. So going out, getting that community engagement. And what people seem, I think, sometimes to forget is the marketing aspect of this, turning investors into advocates. So like Alphagreen have done, you know, they've got 700 plus investors in the round. They're now going to be advocates for the business. They're going to be people who are going to be telling their friends about it. They're going to be telling their family about it. And ultimately, they're going to be actually buying products from the marketplace. So this isn't only sort of a marketing exercise for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, however long you're on the platform, but it's also an opportunity for you to scale your growth long term over sort of like a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 month period. Big thing about crowdfunding is the speed. So on average, it takes 8 to 12 weeks from you signing your agreement with us to funds being in your account. So how to successfully crowdfund for CBD. Now, the key elements for success here are utilizing your private network. So, and also hopping on the business community. And I don't want to sort of, I suppose, blow smoke up Alexej too much, but he was absolutely fantastic in engaging his private network and his own business community. And it's such an important part of crowdfunding. It is a co-investment. So getting 50%, I suppose, from your side, then adding your own community and your customers, and then adding in the Seedrs investors. And to elucidate on the Seedrs investors, we have 500,000 active investors at the present moment. What we mean by active is anyone who's made 2 or more investments in the last 12 to 15 months. On average, they're putting in £2,500 per campaign. In terms of their backgrounds, they tend to be pretty sophisticated investors, so professional services, lawyers, doctors, and they're essentially looking at Seedrs as a I suppose, another option to their stock market portfolio. So Alexej, I was really hoping that you could sort of jump in on this actually, on the private network side. So obviously involving the friends, family, professional network, friends of the business, doing events. How was that for you? How did you go about it? Obviously the success that you had before launch, getting everybody involved. What was your strategy on that?
Mm-hmm. So our strategy was to raise initially not on Seedrs, but privately, and we raised 1.1 million in 2020, and that allowed us to then say, hey guys, i.e. existing investors, we want to raise another round. Seedrs is really keen to work with us, and would be great to get your, let's say, pro rata commitments at least. And so in our case, people actually wanted to do more than a pro rata. So while we raised, let's say, 2.4 million, which is at a 10 million pre-money valuation, around kind of 19, 20 million dilution, we actually got 330,000 pounds from existing investors. So that's that's more kind of what they were supposed to give us, which contributed quite well to that, what you said, existing commitment. Plus we had another lead investor, just kind of like by also being big rather than their terms, who wanted to put in 500K. So before we even got on Seedrs, we basically had very hard kind of commitment for 850K. And so then we said, okay, we want to make the target 1 million to make sure we raise at least 1 million. And we talked, of course, to people who didn't come in last round. And of course, we promoted it on LinkedIn, talked to other friends as well. And so, of course, then through this crowdfunding process, we were able to also get the 1K, 2K, 3K investments from friends and other kind of angels as well. And then, of course, once you kind of cross the funding target, everything accelerates, and you can really see that with Chloris and Canabrew, and even Voyager, even though Voyager was just 4 days on the platform. But basically, you have that kind of like, snowball effect, and then you get a lot more through the Seedrs network. And then on top of that, your existing investors start referring you to other investors as well. And so it all kind of comes in. And I think what's really good is as well, you have this kind of sense of urgency because you have this ticking countdown, which helps you really to close the round fairly quickly.
Yeah, and I suppose from your side, did you find it was just as well like a good place to aggregate investors who were quite, maybe, I don't want to use the word flaky, but were coming in and out and maybe weren't sure? Did you feel that it was, just sending them the link was quite a good thing to get them, they can see it on a page? Did you find that you got quite good uptake from that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, ultimately, everybody sees that, okay, Seedrs is FCA regulated. And so it adds a bit more seriousness to it as well. It's important. And CBD, you kind of anything you can get to make it look more serious rather than like a dodgy product helps ultimately. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. And so did you, and I know this was a massive thing actually, and something that I noted that you did so well during the campaign in terms of advertising it. So on your website, you actually had Alphagreen is crowdfunding soon. Did you find that helped in terms of the community piece?
I guess it's good just for awareness, right? Ultimately, we didn't actually check if any of our customers invested or not. Probably we should actually go back and check, but ultimately, as a, let's say, B2C offering in that case, even though we actually a very B2B company as well, but as a B2C offering, it is actually good for the community to allow customers to invest into the company as well. Yeah,
thank you for that. I completely agree, and I think as you can see here, everyone, from this slide, building a community, that such an important thing. And actually what Chloris did very well as well was they actually sent out an email newsletter to all of their customers to say that they were crowdfunding for them to get involved. From my side as well, one of the most important things about doing a crowdfund is the loyalty scheme. And this is something that I believe you put in as well, Alexej, into your campaign. You did a perk structure, which I think really helps. And I'll just run through for everybody what a perk structure can potentially look like. So This is just for people coming in to the round on the platform. So for a minimal investment of sort of £10, they get a tote bag. Now, whilst this may seem a bit arbitrary, actually, if they're going out, going into I don't know, like a shared office, like a work life or a WeWork or anything like that, and they're bringing your tote bag in, then it's just creating awareness about the brand. But I think that probably a little bit more negligible in terms of the bigger amounts that are being put in. So when you sort of get to that, maybe sort of 5,000-10,000. Now, this is what we were speaking about earlier. It's just creating yourself and for your business long-term sales growth. So, looking at if somebody invests £5,000, they're getting 30% off any orders made for 3 months, right? So again, yes, they've invested in your business, but what you're actually doing with that is you're getting repeat customers. And again, one of the going up to the 10,000, if you're getting 75% off your first order and then 50% off any orders for 6 months, you're very much likely to be using that. And I think that's one of the biggest things about Seedrs is, yes, we want to be here for you during your campaign, but this is a partnership. We want to be here for the life cycle of your business. And by implementing a perk structure within that, that's a great way to do that. And that's just not just across CBD. I think the Vegan Kind and Oddbox had their record sales months for 3-4 months after their Seedrs campaign with their subscription boxes, just because people who had invested had become advocates and then started using their subscription service. And I think I've got like a little breakdown of for everyone just to have a little bit of a look at here. Alexej, could you just run me through your thinking around what you were doing here with your perk structure?
Yeah, the thinking was you have to be actually quite careful if you're an EIS business to not offer more perks than the person and then the amount the person is investing. But ultimately we said, okay, look, a free CBD gummy taster pack, that's basically kind of £20 we're giving you as a present. If you invest £250, we then give you an extra t-shirt on top of that if it's 1,000. Now with 5,000, we also give you a hoodie. So it's kind of like, accumulating. And then what I saw a few people, a few companies did, which I found quite cool, is basically if the investor is 50K plus, it can be a private dinner or, nowadays maybe a Zoom. And that's almost also good for, let's say, the business, right? Because you really meet an investor who would then potentially follow his or her money in the next round. And ultimately also for an investor is obviously important to actually meet the team or the CEO as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that I loved about yours was also the merchandise that you're sending out. I can't stress enough just having logos, people wearing t-shirts, hoodies, what that actually does. And the mystery goodie bag as well was a great one that you put in. And I think for everyone else looking at some of the investor perks that the Chloris have put in here, you can see the 20% online discount for 12 months. And as you go up the chain, you can just see the added perks that the investors can get. Again, same with Voyager and Canabrew, the way that they've put their perk structures together is all about affecting their long-term sales growth, and also just their brand awareness by getting people to have their products in their home. So even as simplistic as friends coming over or anything like that, then they can be looking at the brand and asking the question of what is that, and then them telling them about it. So it's all about creating that sort of momentum and word of mouth with the perk structure. And I suppose like the thing that as a business looking to raise on Seedrs is put yourself in the shoes of an investor, right? So what's that investor thinking? What are they looking at as a successful campaign. You want to appeal to their hearts, like to their nature. And what Alexej, you did fantastically well was you excited them. And I think that's the biggest thing about CBD in my eyes from the campaigns that I've run, is that people are so excited about this space at the moment. And I liken it to sort of the early fintech space in 2014, 2015. We are seeing just a huge appetite from investors to get into the round. I suppose it'd be great to hear your thoughts, Alexej, on why you think investors at the moment, if you're looking at the Seedrs platform as, I suppose you're looking at the Seedrs platform as the mark, like why do you think investors are showing such an uptake in this market at the moment?
I'm just answering some questions here, but basically the interest comes from the public market performing extremely well. I mean, you have 3 months ago a company with £14,000 in revenue at listing and is still trading at a 70 million market cap, which is insane.
Yeah.
You have another company with no revenue, no product at a 15 million market cap. So it's really where investors just thinking, okay, the exit A can be fairly, soon, and then B, if you almost don't succeed as a business, you have the public markets to exit, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of personally would avoid public markets in this space. And so you could kind of then maybe argue that some of the better companies want to tap into the private market as long as possible to be still around when potentially legalization happens, or when regulation becomes easier, or again, to answer some of the other questions here, but some of the digital marketing becomes easier with Google and Facebook ads as well. So again, there is just a lot of potential in the future, and yeah, we're just scraping the surface right now.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that's leads quite nicely onto the next slide. Really, why raise for Seedrs? And I've actually seen a question come in on the Q&A, which I'll go through with regards to the cap table. So here at Seedrs now, Alexej got, for example, 700 plus investors into the campaign. So for him to manage that would be quite I don't want to say annoying, but I will. So what we do here is we run a full service nominee structure. So essentially Seedrs manages the crowd. We speak on behalf of the crowd, act on behalf of the crowd, and it just comes up on your cap table as Seedrs, and we look after all of those investors for you. I think that the main reason why you'd want to raise with Seedrs, we have such a big investor base, but more importantly, there's such a big appetite within this investor base for CBD-based businesses. And you can just see from the numbers that are being generated from Alphagreen, from Voyager, from Chloris, from Noro, from Canabrew, that they are some of the best that we've seen. And I think one of the reasons for this is that CBD businesses, they can't raise for a start on any other platform. They've only just really been able to start crowdfunding just because of the rules and regulations that have been in place. And a massive shout out has made my job so easy is from the legal and investment team, and how much effort they've gone to actually build out our platform to allow CBD-based businesses. And I think that our investors, what they're essentially seeing and showing is that because there hasn't been that access to CBD businesses before on the platform or on any crowdfunding platform, whenever a good business like an Alphagreen, like a Chloris, like a Voyager is coming on, they are just piling in with investment. I suppose there's some crowdfunding myths around CBD. Like we have developed our own platform where we can take bank transfers, but because Seedrs were the first people to do it, we've actually been lobbying Stripe for a long time, so sort of like 12 months now, and now Seedrs can take Stripe payments as well on, and we can take Stripe payments on the platform. So that's just one of the, I suppose, the biggest benefits. And we don't just work with CBD, we can also do medicinal cannabis. Obviously, you go through quite a strict and rigorous due diligence process, but you have the benefit of, once you've gone through that, you know that you can go on our platform and it can be validated by the crowd. And from your side of things, Alexej, do you think that that is one of the main reasons why you saw such an uptake, just because maybe there haven't been CBD businesses allowed on crowdfunding platforms before?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I guess it's the scarcity, right? So the fewer businesses there are, the public can invest in, the more money the ones who are raising will attract. So it's, again, similar story in the public market as well. But ultimately, I think it's just about finally the sector becoming accessible for private investors, but also just generally, again, like legally the sector really been around maybe 2.5 years. So it's a very, very new sector.
Yeah, I agree. And I think all of this is just, it's just seen such, as I said, such a big boom for Seedrs. I mean, we do have 100% success rate at the moment. I think one of the things is as well is that as a CBD business potentially looking to raise, you know that the validation is there now. So we've got the case studies for you. So you can have a look at those, and we'll share some insights for you after this, and you can have a look at those in more detail. But the validation is now there for CBD companies because of the successful raises, because of the work that Alexej has done, and we do owe you a lot for that, Alexej, in obviously making your campaign so successful. So just a little bit as well on the follow-on round benefits. So if you're looking to do another round with Seedrs, so build upon what you've already done. So we have a 34% repeat raise return rate amongst the portfolio. 13% of companies run 3 or more rounds of Seedrs. As you can see, you've got the repeat raise leaderboard there. Alexej, I don't know if you'll get on it on the repeat raise leaderboard, but you can see some great companies on there: Landbay, Viquo, Hectare. Just a numerous rounds to utilize the crowd. The average valuation increase as well on second round is 319%. Average platform investment, interestingly, is 206%, and the average number of second round investors is up 58%. So that's actually it from my side. Obviously, you can see there everyone my details. If you want to get in touch via email, via LinkedIn, would love to hear from you.